Yeah, Breaker 19, this here's a rubber duck. You got a copy on me? Pigpen, come on. Yeah, 10-4 Pigpen, for sure, for sure. By golly, it's clean clear to Flagtown, come on. Yeah, it's a big 10-4 there, Pigpen. Yeah, we definitely got the front door, good buddy. Mercy sake alive. Looks like we got us a convoy. Was the dark of the moon on the 6th of June in a Kenworth, pulling logs. Cab over Pete with a reefer on and a Jimmy hauling hogs. We was heading for Bear on I-10, about a mile out of Shaky Town. Says Pigpen, this here's the rubber duck, and I'm about to put the hammer down. 'Cause we got a little old convoy riding through the night. We got a little old convoy, ain't she a beautiful sight? Come on, join our convoy, get it on our way. We got a little Truckin convoy across the USA. Breaker, Pigpen, this here's the duck, and you want to back off them hogs? 10-4, about 5 miles or so. 10, Roger, them hogs is getting intense up here. By the time we got into Tulsa town, we had 85 trucks in all, but they's a roadblock up on the Cloverleaf, and them bears was wall to wall. Yeah, them smokies as thick as bugs on a bumper. They even had a bear in the air. It says, calling all trucks, this here's the duck. We about to go hunting bear. 'Cause we got a great big convoy riding through the night. We got a great big convoy, ain't she a beautiful sight? Come on and join our convoy, looking in our way. We gonna roll this Truckin convoy across the USA. Convoy. You want to give me a 10-9 on that, Pigpen? Negatory, Pigpen. You're still too close. Yeah, them hogs are starting to close up my sinuses. Mercy sake, you better back off another 10. Well, we rolled up Interstate 44 like a rocket sled on rails. We tore up all of our swindle sheets and left them sitting on the scales. By the time we hit that Chi-town, them bears was a-getting smart. Brought up some reinforcements from the Illinois National Guard. There was armored cars and tanks and jeeps and rigs of every size. Yeah, them chicken coops was full of bears and choppers filled the skies. When we shot the line, we went for broke with 1,000 screaming trucks and 11 long-haired friends of Jesus in the Chartreuse microbus. Yeah, Rubber Duck, this is Sodbuster. Come on there. Yeah, 10-4 Sodbuster. Listen, you want to put that microbus in behind that suicide jockey? Yeah, he's hauling dynamite and he needs all the help he can get. Well, we laid a strip for the Jersey Shore, prepared to cross the line. I could see the bridge was lined with bears, but I didn't have a doggone dime. Says, Pigpen, this here's the Rubber Duck, we just ain't a-gonna pay no toll. So we crashed the gate doing 98. I said, let them truckers roll, 10-4. Convoy rocking through the night. We got a great convoy, ain't she a beautiful sight? Come on and join our convoy, nothing's gonna get in our way. We gotta roll this Truckin convoy across the USA. Convoy. 10-4 Pigpen, what's your 20? Omaha? Well, they ought to know what to do with them hogs out there for sure. Well, mercy's sake, good buddy, we're gonna back on out of here. Just keep the bugs off your glass and the bears off your tail. Catch you on the flip-flop. This here's a Rubber Duck on the side. We gone, bye-bye.
This has been a musical interlude. And more appropriate than you might think.
I mean, they can see.
Yeah, they can literally see the Euro Truck Simulator, but splash screen.
Alrighty, how's everyone doing tonight? Thank you for joining us again for another Euro Truck, or Sound Goblin stream. We're playing Euro Truck 2. We're going to pop out of here for a second because it's not detecting the controller. I think it might be having an angry time because I turned the controller on as the game was loading. Let's give it just a sec to reset that there. But yeah, I am, as always, Bograt or Josh.
And I am Vincent, also known as Vincent.
And I'm the Krampus, also known as Big Bear.
Shiv is not joining us tonight since he is currently leaking from every hole in his face. But we're going to carry on without him anyways. He might show up in chat, who knows.
Might already be in chat.
Entirely possible. here. Just to make sure the stream looks all right. There we go. So this is a run on Euro Truck here that I've been about 2 weeks now. Been playing off and on every time I'm over here at the house we do this from. So we got a little bit going here. Already about level 10. Got our Sound Goblin Truckin garage. At present, we've got 3 trucks. All of them are Iveco Stralis. The one that we drive is a little bit upgraded, but the other ones are stock standard. Just bought the 3rd truck and hired a second additional driver. So we're starting to get there. We're based out of Germany because it's one of the better places to start from in Euro Truck since it's sort of centralized. Particularly, we're based out of Nuremberg, so we won't have far to go for the war truck crimes trials we inevitably will have to face. Because, let's be honest.
War crimes trials, or alternatively, if we want to see the Nuremberg protests, which certainly have nothing to do with... I goddamn hate people.
But regardless, so yeah, we're gonna be playing some Euro Truck tonight. So there's a bunch of realism features in this game. There's fatigue. There's traffic regulations. I turned all that shit off because I play this game to relax and have fun.
Yeah, you can get down to some very interesting particulars. Like even the interior of the cab that you're seeing right now, this is all accurately made from the type of truck that you'd be driving if you bought this truck in real life.
Yeah.
Minus some aesthetic differences that were installed after the fact.
With the right rig up, you could actually use this game to learn how to actually properly drive a big rig truck. Mm-hmm. I don't have that rig. I'm using an Xbox controller and a keyboard for some additional controls here. Let's see what they got here on offer for jobs. But yeah, I play this game to chill out and relax. About the only sort of quote-unquote realism feature I hang on to is the truck speed limiter. And that's mostly because once these things go over about 90 kilometers per hour, they become completely unmanageable to actually drive. And I don't like hurling myself into ditches that much.
Understandable. For those of you in the U.S., which is probably our entire audience.
We have an audience.
2 people.
Yes.
One other than me.
Yeah.
So yes. Possibly.
Check and see who the one other than you is.
I'm on the civilian version of Twitch, so I don't get that option. It just shows me there's 2 people.
No, if you, underneath where the chat is, there's a little thing that's got the lines, and it'll show you who is in there. Because I'm pretty sure that's me. Regardless, you were saying something about for American audience.
Oh, yes. So 90 kilometers per hour, if we convert to miles per hour, is something.
It's about 3 miles to every 5 kilometers, so at 90 you're talking 18, so 18 times 3. You talk about 54, around 60 miles an hour. Thereabouts.
Yeah, that sounds about right from my experience driving behind trucks annoyingly.
Mm-hmm.
So the amusing thing is I actually enjoy playing the hell out of this game, and I'm decently good at it. I'm not going to claim to be great at it by any means. I do still flip a truck occasionally. But the amusing thing about that is my personal car, I drive about as far from a big rig truck as you can get, being a Fiat 500 owner. But yeah, so I just kind of play this game to chill. Go on these long-haul truck drives and relax. Now, normally when I'm playing this game, I fire up the internet radio stations that are actually a built-in mechanic of this game, but since we don't want to get our Twitch streams muted and our YouTube account banned, we're not going to be doing that tonight, so instead we're going to be just having a chat, talking about some things, because if I'm being real, there's not a whole lot to talk about this game. This is pretty much it.
Yeah.
This is kind of the entire game, is just sort of driving.
What you're seeing on screen is just kind of a relaxing thing for the Thanksgiving week.
Yep.
Not planned, but that's just how it fell in the schedule.
But, yeah. So, we're just going to talk about stuff.
Literally anything.
We,
Anything. Could even be a boat.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Alright, we're gonna ignore the family he crushed.
No, I didn't hit a car. I missed the initial exit, so... That's okay, though. It's recalculated a route for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
This was a long-ass drive anyways, taking stuff from where I was in France all the way back to a place in Germany, so... It's not like it's going to add too much to it. But yeah. We are a fairly eclectic group, and have had discussions on all sorts of bizarre and strange things, so that'll be just sort of an exposure to that tonight.
Yeah, some real and some made up.
Define made up.
So it should be noted, as I mentioned, I've been working on this for about 2 weeks, so we've known this was coming for quite a while, so I asked the other members of Sound Goblin to come up with some ideas for conversation topics.
And I do all of my preparations at the last possible second, so...
So can Fallout 76 recover from where it's been?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, theoretically, it's not like Bethesda's going to stop backing it at any point, and people are so goddamn blinded by the Bethesda mythos that they still seem to be struggling to admit that Fallout 76 is actually a bad fucking game.
Oh, is this after they've gotten... Well, they're nowhere near fixing bugs, are they?
No. They put out a 15 gigabyte patch.
Bethesda doesn't
last
fix
couple of
bugs. Bethesda waits for the mod community to fix bugs.
Yeah, granted. Which doesn't really work with a online thing.
Yeah. I mean, people finally figured out what the end game in that game is.
Huh.
Turning it off, uninstalling it, go to play a good game.
People found
So
out what
hit
the
the
end
play
game
button?
is if you're still trying to play. So basically, like, they made a big thing about you being able to launch nukes. They didn't explain what the point of it was, and everybody thought it was just a griefing thing. It's not. When you drop a nuke into an area, it creates super high-level versions of all the enemies there and proportional loot.
I mean, they had
including
mentioned
some
that.
sort of,
Yeah, they did actually mention that.
Yeah. So they finally found out what the toughest thing you could spawn with one of those drops is. So there's these things in the game called Scorch Beasts, which are, according to some sources, exact rips of the dragons from, or exact drips of the AI and behavior from Skyrim, of the dragons.
Not according to some sources. They've literally done frame-by-frame analysis of their movement and attack patterns. They literally took the frames of the Skyrim dragons, put a new texture over them, and just put them in 76.
Yep. But, so if you drop a nuke onto the nest of one of those things, you get a Scorch Beast Queen, which is, like, the highest level thing in the game.
Is that game actually technically out yet?
Wait, what, 76?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been out for a couple weeks.
Okay.
Like a week and a half, I think.
Something like that. If we're not
Also, let's be real here.
here.
That's not the end game. The real end game is firing 3 nukes at once and causing the server to crash.
Which is not hard, considering people found a way around having to have all the keys for the nukes.
Yep.
That seems a little bit too easy.
So the thing about the keys for the nukes is the way it's designed is theoretically they're supposed to be, randomized drops will give you a part of a nuke key, like a single letter of the nuke key, and you have to gather 8 of them. And then once you have 8 of them, you can then go to the Brotherhood.
Enclave bunker.
The Enclave bunker. Sorry, yeah. Enclave is the U.S. government. Brotherhood are assholes who decided that the U.S. government didn't have a place anymore. Yeah. But you can go to the Enclave bunker with the key, the 8 letters you've discovered, and then based on the code word of the week, you then have to use like a cipher to figure out the actual launch code. So people sort of reverse engineered this whole thing and have already basically created a JavaScript web page you can go to with partial keys. It'll pull the partial key information and the code word of the week and give you what the most likely launch code is.
They'll actually give you a few different choices.
Yeah, it'll give you a few different choices, but it has been shown to reliably give you a verified launch code with as few as 4 of the letters.
Yeah.
So you still have to do a little bit of work, but not nearly as much work as you would have to do otherwise.
So it goes down from 24 letters to 12 in order to get 3 nukes.
Yes.
Yes.
But so that's the latest in a long string of things that happened to 76. But yeah, they
Well,
found
the latest in the long string of things that happened to 76 is that games journalists are trying so hard to not just admit that the game is bad, to the point where one author in Polygon literally wrote the phrase, "It was harder for me to admit I was an alcoholic than wake up this morning and admit I did not enjoy Fallout 76." He still never called it a bad game. He placed the blame solely on himself. Somehow.
Yeah.
This is kind of impressive.
And
Yeah.
Polygon, not as impressive as you'd think, given their track record.
But regardless, the point is, like, it's a bad game. It really is.
How so?
So, even taking into factor the Bethesda Fallout games, as flawed as they are, one of the things that has always sort of driven and been one of the large drawing points of the Fallout series is well-written stories, well-built characters, and situations that make you care and get involved in what's going on in the game and in the world. Fallout 76 literally doesn't have NPCs or a story, basically.
Yeah, the main story of the game is you following the overseer of the vault that you were in, which, shock among shocks, was actually designed to do what they claimed vaults were supposed to do, rather than being a social experiment. And so at that point, you have to follow her, because her orders are to secure 3 nuclear silos for Vault Tech, and wrest control of them away from anyone else, including the government. And I had not heard anything about the end of the story yet, but apparently it's more just a way to, like, get you to go to certain places and know where they are than any kind of actual quest.
So it's an extended tutorial.
Basically.
Right.
Yeah. They also toned down the base building from Fallout 4. The same kind of base building is in there, but you only get one base.
No.
You can't do settlements or anything like that. And so, basically, it feels like they're trying to make a game like Destiny, where they have this world and they start doing events and stuff, like, every couple of weeks, because they've said they're going to be doing events, new creatures, new stuff like that, as sort of like an event thing, rather than just DLC like they've been doing for the other games. But they don't have anything in there in the meantime to work off of.
Well, and the other part of it is like, you say a game like Destiny, except Destiny has a story and NPCs to interact with to help drive that story.
I didn't say they were doing a good job of it, I just said that was what they were trying to do.
Like, basically what they've done is handed players a giant bug-ridden sandbox and then said, hey, look at this awesome game we designed. And it's like, you made an engine. You made a table upon which a game could be made. But there's other things to a game than just gameplay and, uninstalling itself.
Yeah, the launcher woes did not help the game at all.
Damn it, I keep missing my exit.
You also totally hit that guy.
No, that doesn't matter. So among the traffic offenses things that get turned off is I can hit cars with impunity and not actually be charged any money for it. Now, it will damage my truck, so I do still try to avoid doing it, but I don't have to pay repairs for them. Fuck them. Also, red lights are for lesser mortals.
I am Trucules.
I don't even know where the fuck I'm going at this point. I missed so many exits to head me back to Germany. Might end up in Spain. Except you can't. France is where it cuts off, but...
Then that's literally the polar opposite direction.
Yes, I'm aware. I'm supposed to be going the polar opposite direction from the direction I am going. I missed my exit several times.
I mean, are you facing south?
Maybe?
Is there not a compass in this cabin?
No.
Okay.
So yeah, 76 is a thing. I don't know. I've had my issues with Bethesda as the guardians of the Fallout brand for a long time, but 76 just thoroughly cements to me that they really have no fucking idea what they're doing with it. They are so thoroughly up their own ass about what they think Fallout is.
It also doesn't help they got shown up once and don't want to repeat the experience.
Yeah.
Got shown up.
Fallout New Vegas, which was made by Obsidian and is in every possible way a better Fallout game than Fallout 3 was.
There have been a couple of Bethesda employees who were on anonymous quote as saying, like, yeah, we didn't like that the first thing out of everybody's mouth when they played Fallout 4 was, this is great, when are you giving the engine to Oblivion so they can make their game?
Obsidian.
Or Obsidian. So they can make their game. Cause...
Also, let's be real here. Nobody said Fallout 4 was great.
Yes, take destiny in your own hands. These people can wait.
I'm fairly certain there's something illegal about this.
Oh, incredibly illegal.
Only if you get caught.
I don't see no cops.
Yeah, look, he's going to pay him off right now. There you go. Here's a little extra. You saw nothing.
At some point, the GPS will reconfigure and realize that I'm not going the way it wants me to.
At some point.
There we go.
There.
No, not miss your exit.
But yeah, so Todd, Howard, and the guys at Bethesda are severely butthurt that everybody likes Fallout New Vegas more than Fallout 3 or Fallout 4.
Yep.
And have basically all but made it clear that they will never hand over the Fallout license to anyone again for a third party to develop a Fallout game. So we have to either give up on the franchise or eat what Bethesda serves us and like it.
Good thing I was never invested in this franchise.
I really like Fallout 1 and 2. I spent a lot of time in New Vegas. 3 I can take or leave, and I never even bothered with 4. And 76 to me is just kind of a void. Like, I don't even care.
Right. So for a more upbeat topic, what has everyone actually been playing lately, other than this?
Sunset Overdrive just came out on PC after, I want to say a 4-year gap. It was originally an exclusive to Xbox 360, I want to say. Might have been an Xbox One title, but...
It was an Xbox One.
It was it was an Xbox One, but...
I think it was a launch title for the one, if I recall.
Yeah.
Close to it, I think. I don't think it made the launch, but I think it was like one of the
I think it was at least planned as a launch title,
yeah.
I know.
But it's a game by Insomniac, the guys who made Ratchet and Clank and everything like that. It's a game that did not get appreciated on the Xbox One. I really liked it, but I definitely wanted to play it with a mouse and keyboard. Basically what it is if Tony Hawk was also a third-person shooter and had all the Ratchet and Clank guns. It is also a game that does not treat the fourth wall seriously at all.
But can you beat the entire game with a wrench?
I think one of the skins you can get for your melee weapon is a wrench, so as soon as you unlock that skin for it, yes. By strictest technicality, you could beat the entire game with a default melee weapon. I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, you grind on rails, you like bounce around on cars. If you're running and just like using your WASD keys to move, something has gone dreadfully wrong. You have messed up a jump somewhere and have landed, and now you must get back on your rails and stuff and fight. I really like it. It's $20. You can do better, or you can do worse than spending $20 on it, and it's got all the polish and...
So wait, they ported it to PC and are only charging $20.
Yep.
Yes. Because it's a 4-year-old game.
Well, yeah, that's true enough.
I mean,
You say
yes,
that like pricing for PC ports actually makes sense.
Yeah.
And that companies have not, in fact, ported like 4-year-old games and then priced it as if it were a new game.
Yeah.
Granted.
As for me, I continue to play, honestly, a lot of indie stuff other than this. Slay the Spire, which is a dungeon-crawling roguelite card game, deck-building style. Just actually released, at least on the beta branch. I don't know if it's out on the main branch yet, but sort of the end game for that, which is Act 4. So I've been doing a bunch of runs, first to unlock Act 4 and then to do all the Act 4 stuff. Because there's 3 character classes in Slay the Spire, and there's an achievement for completing Act 4 with each of the 3. So I've gotten 2 out of the 3 on that. I've been trying to get back into Graveyard Keeper because it really seems like a game I should like, but it's been kind of difficult for me. It's a very similar stylistically to like Stardew or like a Harvest Moon kind of game, just with some slight differences being, rather than being a farmer as your sort of default, you are a Graveyard Keeper. But I don't know, just something about the way the game is built, like I think it throws too many mechanics at you all at once and then doesn't really ever guide you into them. Just goes, here they are, fucking figure it out. And it just doesn't appeal to me as much because of that. And then yeah, obviously I've been playing a fair amount of this. And then Krampus and I, since we both have the entire week of Thanksgiving off, have been playing Lego Marvel Superheroes as a co-op playthrough, and we're actually about 3/4 of the way through the story at this point.
Yeah, I'd say we're almost done with it. We're just kind of racing for the end at this point. We did a lot.
We
of
unlocked a
grinding.
lot of the stuff already that's unlockable in the city, frankly.
Yep. I mean, it's a Lego game, and it's one of the Lego games that kind of solidified the having meaning to having a lot of different heroes, with just a lot of different powers that are needed to 100% the missions.
A lot of different great powers that come with great responsibilities.
That joke has been made so many times in the game.
I'm not surprised.
I mean, they do get some good jokes in. It's just, they also rely on an egregious amount of really bad puns.
Well, really bad puns, but the puns don't bother me nearly as much as a lot of the jokes they make are reliant on basically just referencing jokes from the cinematic universe.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, eh?
I mean, granted, the Lego games are not exactly known for their originality.
Well, that's the thing, though, is that they do actually have some really good, like, well-written jokes in there, and, and good visual gags and stuff like that. So it's very clear they were capable of doing it. They just...
Could not fill a whole game with it?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. They probably could have. They just chose not to.
I get the feeling that some of the earlier levels were tested and worked on a lot more than the later levels were.
Yeah, gameplay-wise, that's definitely... There's been some issues as we've gotten further into it. Just, there's been... For some of the things, a decent lack of guide posting to let us know what the fuck the game is expecting us to do.
Yeah.
Which is weird because it also has tutorial messages that you can't shut off and will repeat every single time you're playing as a given character.
That seems unnecessary.
Yeah. And meanwhile, literally, we got to, like, Xavier's mansion, and there's a part where the solution to what you're supposed to do to progress the level forward is switch characters to Storm, who is currently, like, tangled up by Toad's tongue. Except there's no actual indicator that you have access to Storm as a character now because you've been playing through the entire level as Jean and Cyclops. And Storm shows up and there's a little bit of a cutscene, but there's no actual indicator as like, oh yeah, Storm is on your team now. She's still like trapped by Toad's tongue. And so we spent probably a good 5-10 minutes going around the room trying to do everything we could and interact with everything we could in the room. And the solution was just to switch to Storm and hold down X.
And to answer the question in chat, yes, we are American. Sorry, go on. We've doubled our viewership.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yes, we are American. I am highly unlikely to actually try and pronounce the names of any places in this game because I will butcher them. But if I do, I will butcher them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, going back a topic, or well, not back a topic, back a second. That is kind of weird to me when you mentioned the X-Men because for some reason I don't associate with Marvel games because they've just been absent for so long.
Yeah. No, this one definitely has them, and so I believe, I'm not 100% certain on dates, but I think Lego Marvel Superheroes was actually produced and made before the whole suddenly all the mutants are Inhumans thing, as Marvel desperately tried to fuck over Fox so badly that they decided to get rid of the X-Men license. Because they still do refer to everyone as mutants in the game. But
and then eventually just bought Fox and made the whole thing moot anyways.
well, I mean, Disney bought Fox and also bought Marvel, so it's kind of a... Marvel didn't buy Fox.
Granted.
Marvel never quite had that kind of money.
Marvel has never independently had anywhere near that kind of money.
Yeah.
And hell, if we're talking about Marvel Comics, they didn't have anywhere near the ballpark of that kind of money.
No, I mean, it would have been Marvel Studios, if anything, which
Yeah.
very quickly out-financed the comics company.
Hilariously so, yes. Because they figured out how to make good comic book movies.
I don't know what you're talking about. Zack Snyder is a cinematic genius. Were you not amazed at the high-quality presentation of Batman v Superman?
I haven't watched it. My superpower of common sense refuses to let me.
Oh, I've watched it.
So what about your kryptonite of cheap liquor and bad friends who will make you watch it?
You know I don't drink. Partially because of that second one.
I have watched Batman v Superman twice.
Why the second time?
Because I couldn't believe a movie that bad could actually be made, so I had to check and make sure I hadn't hallucinated it. I'm not kidding. Like, that's not even a joke. That's legitimately why I watched it a second time. I was thinking about a scene from it, and I'm like, no, that couldn't possibly have actually happened. I had to, like, make that up as an example of how bad the movie was. And then I watched it again, and no, it was that bad. Literally, they stopped fighting because both their mothers were named Martha.
Fantastic.
That hurt my fucking soul as a writer. I am not racing a train.
You might win. Trains. They're actually a thing in Europe.
I mean, they're a thing here, too.
Sort of.
We don't really do passenger trains that much anymore, but freight is still a huge thing out here.
Yeah.
It is. It should be bigger than it is, actually, if anything.
Trust me, as somebody who has spent literally an extra 40 minutes waiting for a train to cross the tracks downtown when I was on my way home from work, freight trains are still a fucking thing.
Oh, yeah. Freight trains are actually a lot more economical than trucking. It's just they have limited paths.
Yes.
Also, the United States train is in really shitty shape, quite frankly.
Well, we kind of let the rail infrastructure of the country sort of lapse during several periods of economic trouble that the United States has had.
Between letting them lapse and, quite frankly, there's not enough companies or will to invest in rail, so... As a matter of fact, there are no companies. There's basically Amtrak, which is owned by the U.S. government.
I mean, for passenger rail, yes. There are actually a few freight rail companies that still run.
Yeah.
Passenger is absolutely Amtrak. Like, there's not even competition for that, because it's a loser's market.
Basically, yes. I'm actually not sure why that still even exists.
I don't know. I mean, it's still technically more convenient for the consumer than trying to do like a road trip. And dependent upon circumstances, cheaper and technically safer than flight.
Cheaper, probably safer. I would have to look up statistics.
Marginally. It is.
Yeah.
I have looked up those statistics. It is actually marginally safer. Like, not statistically significantly safer, but it is marginally safer.
I mean, both of them are reliably safe.
At the very least, in that... I don't know the exact statistics for actual, like, train crashes versus, like, plane crashes and stuff like that, but the survivability, if you are in a train crash, you stand a higher chance of surviving than a plane crash.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially if you're Bruce Willis.
And both of them are worse than cars.
Yes, both of them are, in fact, worse than cars.
Or better than, sorry, other way around.
Well, depending on which way you mean worse.
Yeah. Cars have a lower survival rate.
Yes.
Yeah. Flying cars, on the other hand, no one has ever died in a flying car crash. I don't think.
Also, while we only have some small information about it, it does appear from everything we've seen, if the trend holds, that self-driving cars are actually safer than trains or airplanes.
Yes. They're particularly more... They have issues when it comes to inner city driving, but that's because inner city driving is a nightmare, and quite frankly,
Yes.
people aren't very good at it either. But when it comes to, however, highway driving like this, yeah, that's just plain safer to actually have a self-driving car.
Well, and for the actual, like, in the event of an imminent crash, there's, again, not a whole lot of data as of yet, because self-driving cars really aren't terribly prevalent. But what data we do have from crashes involving self-driving cars show much lower and less significant injuries. And we're not going to talk about the trolley problem because it's a fucking facetious argument against self-driving cars.
Trolley problem.
So the whole thing that one of the big things that people use to oppose self-driving cars.
Oh, the
Is that 30-second clip?
So one of the arguments people make about self-driving cars and why we shouldn't trust them and so on and so forth is, so in the event, like, what is the priority of the self-driving system in the event of an imminent crash? Is it to protect the driver, or is it to protect the most number of people? And they use the trolley problem, which is sort of a philosophical problem, saying there's a trolley or a train approaching a switch plate, and on one side of the switch plate are like 4 people, and on the other side is 1 person, and like there's usually some complication to it, like, oh, the 4 people are regular people, and the 1 person is like a doctor who knows the cure to cancer or something like that. And it's like, well, you are standing at the switch. Which track do you send the train down?
You throw a penny on the tracks of the train, and a train crashes off of it.
But like the whole thing being is that it's this philosophical argument about value, and so they use this as an example of like, well, in the event of a self-driving car with an imminent crash, is its responsibility to save the driver, or is its responsibility to save the most number of people? And people that are basically against the advancement of technology and therefore try and couch their opposition to self-driving cars as moral objection, basically say, well, neither one is a good option in the event of a self-driving car, because if I'm the driver, I obviously want to prioritize protecting me, but that's morally abhorrent because it shouldn't prioritize the life of 1 person over the life of many, blah blah blah. And then it's just this stupid fucking argument, and it really doesn't hold any water, because it's like, here's the deal. It's no different than if I'm driving the car or the computer is. As a matter of fact, it's probably better to have the computer doing it, because the computer's going to be able to think rationally in that situation.
The computer also may well prevent that situation from occurring to begin with.
Yeah, it's going to have a better reaction time than I ever possibly could.
Yeah.
So it the occurrence of a inevitable fatal crash is significantly lower if my car is driving itself than if I'm driving it, because it can react in fractions of a second where I could not possibly do so.
All the same, I see highway driving is coming much, much sooner than anything comes to inner city, partially because, well, stuff like that.
As a note, by the way, just so we're clear on this, I can't see chat at all, so if you're saying that or engaging in the argument at all,
No, we haven't gotten any chat since then.
Yeah. We'll report if chat says anything.
If chat says something, I will let you guys know.
But
yeah, I can't really take my eyes off the game in this one, because just like real driving, if I tend to get distracted for half a second, I do end up usually flinging myself into a ditch or railings or other cars, and just ends poorly. There are not actually that many ditches. They don't seem to have many ditches on these roads. Maybe it's a European thing. I don't know.
Possibly. I mean,
Never actually been to Europe. I
Near
plan to. That's one of my goal vacations, actually, is to go to Scotland. I think it's a beautiful country. I have no actual heritage or background to Scotland. I just think it's an absolutely beautiful country and think I would like to visit there at some point.
Before or after it divorces from the rest of Europe? Forcefully.
I mean, they'd have to manage to successfully divorce themselves from the UK first.
Well,
They haven't quite managed that yet, despite half a century of trying.
well, half-ass trying.
I mean, they've put it to a vote like a dozen times.
Yes, and the vote is failed, I think, most of those times.
Every time.
Yeah.
Same way that Quebec keeps railing about wanting to be separate from the rest of Canada, puts it to a vote, and then never votes to actually separate from the rest of Canada because they're a bunch of whiny half-French babies. If you're Quebecois and offended by that, I'd repeat it in French, but nobody speaks your stupid fucking language. can at least take solace in the fact that I address you correctly as Quebecois. It's an evolution of giving a shit about you. I used to call you Quebecianers because I knew it pissed you off. I can go to Linz for 25,000 euros.
Huh.
I will take that job.
25,000 euros, which I assume is about $58.
I don't remember if the euro is actually currently strong to the dollar, but it's never actually been terribly weak to the dollar, so it's actually kind of an inaccurate statement. I mean, it's not the fucking British pound, but
Euro right now is 1 euro is 1.14 US dollars. So it's actually stronger than the dollar.
Yeah.
It does go back and forth.
it goes back and forth a
down.
bit, but it's never
Yeah.
like I think the lowest I've ever seen it was like 87 cents to the euro.
Yeah.
So like it's always been decently strong as a currency,
Yeah.
despite half of Europe being bankrupt.
Because the other half of Europe is actually productive.
Yeah.
Like Germany. Yes, because European nations, much like everywhere on the planet, really relies on deficit spending.
Yep.
Which works if you have an active economy, and doesn't if you're Greece or Spain.
I mean, to be fair, money is all fucking fake anyways.
To some extent. But you have to actually fake people out right, otherwise you look like Venezuela.
Accurate. But, money doesn't actually fucking exist. Don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here advocating for fucking cryptocurrency by any means, but when it really comes down to it, people get sort of flippant about cryptocurrency and oh, Bitcoin isn't real because it's all just a bunch of shit on a computer. So is the fucking US dollar.
Yeah, the US dollar is a piece of paper with some cotton in it.
That literally represents a bunch of ones and zeros on a server somewhere.
Yes.
There is no actual backing to money. There is nothing that money stands for anymore.
I mean, even when it had backing, what is gold actually worth in the end?
I mean, hey, for a period of time in the 2000s, the common people realized that because that was a plot in a lot of movies. Those people realized, oh, wait, what if our supervillains wanting to mess around with the ones and zeros that make up currency, because then that causes a chain reaction that crashes economies around the globe.
I mean, the only advantage to a gold standard is it keeps the government from utterly fucking up, because they can't, overprint money.
Well, at least economically.
Yes. Okay, yes. Specifically...
No power on earth keeps a government from fucking up.
Accurate.
But yeah, one of the greatest lies of modern society is that money actually fucking means anything.
No, it's a convenient way of trading goods and services. That's basically why it's
legitimately
always existed.
Yeah, and we attach value to it, but when it really comes down to it, let's just take as a microcosm example for the moment. We're all American here. I mean, I know we had some presumably European viewers, but all of us are American, so just to keep it in our frame of reference, whatever amount of money we currently possess as individuals, the U.S. government could tomorrow decide to triple the amount of dollar bills in circulation, and suddenly all of our stuff is worth a third as much.
Probably even less than that.
Yeah, it's not likely to happen, but they absolutely could do it, and there's nothing we can do about it. What we attach value to is basically at the hands of people who don't give a shit about our existence.
Thankfully, their current philosophy is only inflated at about 3% a year. Same with the Euro philosophy, so it's pretty...
Yeah. No, I mean, it is a commonality in that I think no government is completely fucking insane enough to actually do what I just mentioned, but
Well,
it is an
Well, it's
absolute possibility for them to do if they choose to do so.
Well, I mean,
They wouldn't
somehow.
remain in power very long after doing so, but
No, the Fed would be a. That's also the other funny thing about it. Technically, the people in charge of money in the United States are not, strictly speaking, a part of the U.S. government per se. They are an independent,
they're technically an independent, like,
quasi-government
they're
thing.
an independent agency overseen by the federal government.
Yeah.
Is essentially how it works.
That way, they can be completely shady about their own activities.
Yes.
Um,
And don't actually have to follow government regulations most of the time.
Correct.
Our country is so fucked.
We operate unusually well for being constantly under about the same problems.
Well, it's because we've spent, like, almost 80 years now making it next generation's problem.
It's partially that, and it's partially I think everyone else is doing the same stuff, so we don't actually have to worry about someone else getting ahead of us when they're making the same mistakes, or worse.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, at least we aren't building like 16 megacities that yet to have population.
Eh.
No, Tahir Insad is working on that.
No, China is working on that. They have a giant construction bubble.
I mean, if we're being real here, though, let's be honest. It's China. They're not going to not have population for long.
You would think that. Problem is, when you actually plan a city out and you're more bureaucrat and less city planner, and
Well,
you're
I
also
mean-
just looking to make jobs.
Well, I mean, yeah, but... Like, it's not like China isn't overpopulated.
No. But they're also a lot less confident than people think they are when it comes to actually moving people around. Or where they put bedroom communities in relation to where they put where you actually work. So, you know, those great 3-hour commutes.
Also, to be fair, your statement there was not entirely accurate. China is really efficient at moving people around, just usually they end up in death camps.
Granted. Only if they're Muslim. At the
Or
moment.
gay, or political dissidents, or look at somebody funny, or...
Yes. I think we've covered most of the bases.
oh no, there's plenty more.
I don't think they bother with Tibetans, but when you're like a handful of people, who cares anyways?
Yeah, no, they don't. They don't actually care about the Tibetans anymore.
They didn't care about Tibetans to begin with. They cared about Tibet.
Well, they cared about the Tibetans insofar as that Tibetans are in Tibet,
Yes.
and whether or not the rest of the world acknowledges Tibet as a separate country.
The same way they acknowledge whether or not they acknowledge Taiwan as a separate country.
Yeah, China has this real problem about places that it thinks belongs to them, and other people thinks belongs to itself, and
Taiwan is a particularly funny word game where
Taiwan is an incredibly funny word game.
where this is an independent country in pretty much every way, shape, and form, and no one acknowledges it just to not anger China alone. Period.
Of course, then there's also Hong Kong, which for a long time was British, and then the British handed it back to the Chinese, and the Chinese decided to forget that the British handed it back to them and just let them keep operating the way that they had while they were under British rule, to avoid all the horrific regulations that China placed upon itself.
Mostly, yes. I mean, they're slowly kind of working their way into Hong Kong.
They are, but they aren't. They're not really placing any of the like economic regulations that affect mainland China on Hong Kong because they realize that would be a really fucking bad idea.
Well, yeah, Hong Kong actually operates well. There's no fucking point in doing anything to it.
Yeah.
That's why it's a special economic zone.
Yep.
Macau for similar and completely different reasons.
We got it for similar, completely different, and really fucking filthy reasons. Where the fuck are we going?
On tangents.
Well, I mean, that's always. Look, I gotta be real. All I care about is that the Chinese government doesn't fuck up the Hong Kong cinema industry.
That's actually the thing they're most likely to fuck up.
I'm aware.
I mean, granted, the Hong Kong cinema industry can just move to a different Chinese-speaking country that is a lot more free and open about what you can do and say. That's right over there around the corner.
Yes, Hong Kong cinema is very important to me. I mean, that's not a joke. I watch a lot of kung fu movies. And actually a lot of Hong Kong dramas. They're really good at those.
Now, granted, it's not like Hong Kong kung fu movies are, like, blatantly anti-communist at all.
Again, that's part of where the Chinese government is still maintaining turning a blind eye to Hong Kong.
Yeah. I mean, a good majority of those has been, like, telling and retelling old Chinese tales of one sort or another anyways, so...
Yes.
Basically neutral topics that wouldn't really draw the ire of the CCP anyways.
And occasional movies about how single individuals can stand up to a corrupt and failing government.
Ever so often.
That seems ironic.
Happens more often than you think. Uh-oh.
It happens. What?
That's the best engine trouble I've ever seen.
So this game is very generous about engine malfunctions and that you just kind of start back up. The only time it's really a problem is when you're going uphill, and then sometimes you can't actually get enough speed going to get you up the hill, and so you start sliding back. That's about the only time you actually have to tow yourself into service. Now, mind you, as soon as I drop off the load we're currently hauling, I am going to go to a repair shop and get that taken care of, because it's annoying more than anything else. But like I'm telling you right now, if they wanted an engine malfunction to fucking matter, and like the damage to actually make a difference, they would have it disable cruise control. And then I wouldn't play this game.
Yeah, I can see cruise control being pretty much mandatory.
Yeah, because I generally kind of get up to speed, put on cruise control, and then give my trigger finger a rest, because otherwise I have to hold down right trigger for hours.
Pressure-sensitive triggers. Or something. Is it actually pressure-sensitive, or is it just...
Oh, it absolutely is.
Okay. We're not driving a Volvo.
Like, if I don't pull the trigger all the way down, it doesn't put as much acceleration into it as it does. Same thing with the brakes on the left trigger. But for acceleration, there's virtually never any reason not to just floor it.
Halloween.
So this would be one of the few games that would be better to play with an Xbox One controller than a Nintendo Switch Pro controller.
Yes. And I missed my turn again.
Don't worry, just... I'm not sure if you can do that.
He's doing it.
No, I mean, like, physically little. Okay, it's down there? Wait. That way? No? Yeah, you got rails there.
I got this.
Go ahead.
else is just like, when the actual fuck?
I may or may not have done this a few times.
Well, no one's oncoming, so...
Even if they were, they'd stop.
Yes. Generally, you stop.
They know I've got right of way.
Generally, you stop when a semi is coming for you.
Technically, you have bear rights.
Yes.
Or gorilla rights. Depending on where you are. A bear has a right to be anywhere they are, because are you going to stop the bear?
Yeah. See? Fixed it.
Ah, those famous European bears. Are there any European bears?
Probably. Barcelona's full of them, but not the kind you're talking about. I think they probably have black bears. I don't know that there's any brown bears native to Europe. I mean, there's polar bears in Scandinavia.
So to answer that question, there's the Eurasian brown bear.
Ah, okay.
There you go, bears. Now we're putting the whole station at risk.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, by the way. Did you know there's only 8 kinds of bears?
I did not.
Yep.
So black, brown.
Yeah, any bear you have ever heard of falls into one of 8 classifications. There's just variations on those classifications.
Poo.
I don't remember what they are off the top of my head, but
Dumb bears.
there are only 8 kinds of bears. And most bears are so closely related that they can actually have genetically viable interbred offspring.
So you technically have the panda equivalent to the labradoodle.
You will never see anything in your life more terrifying than a grizzly bear polar bear hybrid.
Huh. I didn't know.
Polar grizz.
They're like 14 feet tall.
Okay, that's the last place I expected there to be a bear.
Huh.
Syria.
I could see it.
Yeah, apparently there are Syrian brown bears.
It's gotta be a very fucking warm bear.
Where exactly do these things hang out? Let's see.
Actually, Syria has some mountains, as I recall.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. 'Cause
That's
bears are...
almost certainly where they would live.
Yeah.
Not in the fucking desert.
You're wandering through the desert like, oh man, I'm lost in the desert, I'm low on water, what else could go wrong?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh, golly gee.
I don't know, I think at that point you're just welcome to death.
Yeah, pretty much.
You win,
you're like,
God.
you know what? You know what? Not even gonna fight it.
You win, God. Just take my neck first, please.
I have clearly done something to deserve this.
Whew.
Got a lot of dead air going here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Find something to talk about, or I'm gonna bring up bananas and plantains.
Peanut isn't a nut, Jeff Mansplain. It's a legume.
It's more closely related to beans than it is to anything else.
Okay, let me get off this bear topic.
So,
I mean, bears are cool. If you want to talk about bears, we can talk about bears.
that's what, the sun bear that looks like a man in a bear suit?
Yes, the sun bears look really fucking freaky. They're super lanky and kind of gross looking.
No, they look like people in bear suits.
They're they're really freaky looking.
They're fun to like watch walking around.
Oh yes, Keyforge.
Keyforge.
Fantastic! Yes. So, for those of you who don't know, Keyforge is a card game with a unique aesthetic to it in that you don't customize your decks. You buy pre-made decks, and you have to use that deck as it comes. And the names of these decks are randomly generated.
And they decided to use things they shouldn't have used in random name generation.
Uh-huh. I think they just fed it a word list that
Yeah,
they found
did
somewhere,
don't release
honestly.
their algorithms at all.
And words that should never seen the light of day in there.
I don't know what you're talking about. I use genital frequently in the names of my decks.
So yes, these great example ones that I see on the
Like my wonderful magic deck, the big pink floppy deck. Thus named because it is... I mean, it's actually not that big. It's the size of a normal magic deck. Mm-hmm. It is, however, entirely sleeved in pink sleeves. It doesn't work very often, so it's floppy, and it's a deck.
So my favorite thing I've seen so far for Keyforge titles is The Emperor That Pays for Boys.
Yes.
Emperor That Pays for Boys was a good one. Wasn't there one that you found, Krabs? It was The Boy Who Basically Headbutts Heaven.
That's actually the name of it.
Yes.
The exact name of it is
the exact name is The Boy Who Basically
Headbutts
Headbutts Heaven. To which my response was, I'm pretty sure I've watched that anime.
I see no problem with that name.
Yeah. No, it's a great name for a deck. Like, I love it. I mean, I'm sure it has nothing to do with what's in the actual fucking deck, but...
I've played Magic long enough to know that when people are actually allowed to name their decks, they're actually even stupider.
See, there's also The Loving Wizard. Kalel, Fishy Passage Archivist. She That Punches Elephants.
Wang the Bruised.
Wang the Suddenly Bruised.
Why is Wang on your names list?
What
It's
one
a name.
deck that was apparently just named Rothschild.
Wow!
Yeah.
Wow. Yikes. Was it in 3 sets of parentheses?
And it's Rothschild, Keeper of Exotic Animals. Was the full name of the deck, or something like that. Thompson the Seriously Undead. The Leader That Amuses the Bourgeoisie.
I'm just waiting for their inevitable... the inevitability, because it is a randomly generated algorithm, fed probably just a list of a bunch of English words. Which means that theoretically, Monkeys on Typewriter style, somebody will receive a deck entitled Lord British Sucks a Wang.
Yeah, because it looks like they had a lot of things in but didn't note their connotation. I think whoever did this was, like, European in origin. Because deuce made it in as a word.
Well, I mean, it means two.
Yes, but that's why somebody got the Sonic Deuce. Or Jaggerpuss, the Jammed Cabin Deuce.
So it means two and should not actually be used as, like, an ending noun.
I mean, it's also utilized as a noun.
Yeah.
It is.
You can be blinded by the light, revved up like a deuce, another runner in the night. It's a slang term for a 2-stroke engine.
None of
It's a
which
slang term for other things too.
Yep.
None of which have anything to do with a card game, or should be used in one.
I don't know what you're talking about. Motorcycles and card games go together perfectly.
I'll give you
Card
that.
games on motorcycles.
Card games on motorcycles.
Card games on motorbikes.
Say this much though. As much entertainment and hilarity as is resulting from that, at least it's not Artifact.
At least it's not Artifact. the most blatant cash grab game I've seen since,
Since any physical card game.
Basically,
yes.
they have apparently decided that the pricing model for physical card games is the way they want to go with their digital card game, because they apparently think consumers are fucking idiots. They do not seem to realize that the kind of people that regularly play collectible card games are probably the most mathematically inclined people on Earth.
Yep.
It is a game. First of all, it's not free to play.
Costs you $20.
Costs $20 to get the game. And there are no free card packs.
Yep.
At all.
After you get the starters for
Ever.
$20, you have to buy every other pack of cards, or buy individual cards from the marketplace.
Which, by the way, these random card packs can include cards you got in the starters. And eventually, once you have more than a playset of those cards, the only thing you can do with cards you already have a playset of is list them for sale on the Steam Marketplace. There is no disenchant and forge mechanic for cards, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, and things like drafts are done by event tickets, and if you pay one ticket, you can take part in the draft, but you don't get to keep any of the cards you draft. If you pay 2 tickets, you can keep the cards you draft. Meanwhile, Eternal just implemented a system whereby if you hook up your account correctly, you can get packs in Eternal just for watching people play Eternal on Twitch.
Yep. The only thing I can think of is that they're eventually going to start adding free packs for people who subscribe to Dota Plus, but even then, the Venn diagram of people who are going to be playing Dota 2 versus people who are going to be playing Artifact, the game it's based on, ain't that much of a connection between the two. The intersection there is very, very small.
Can I also just mention, by the way, how strange and convoluted I feel like it is that we now have a card game based on Dota that's trying to rely on the Dota player base to play a card game. And the only other example we have of a system like this having any sort of actual impact is the game that Dota was based off of, or at least the game series that Dota was based off of in the first place.
Huh?
Well, Dota was...
So the only other card game that actually has any sort of success with the card game basis being based off of another game is Hearthstone, which is based off of effectively WoW, which is World of Warcraft, which is based off the Warcraft series, which Warcraft 3... Defense of the Ancients was a Warcraft 3 mod.
Which, by the way, that is going to be amusing to me to watch in a, watching two bears try and rip each other apart kind of way. Because the Warcraft 3 remake that they're coming out with has said they are doing their darndest to make every mod that worked with Warcraft 3 and the Frozen Throne
work with the remake.
The remake, and I know for a fact that Warcraft Defense of the Ancients has been updated alongside Dota 2 on a semi-regular basis. So seeing a bunch of people who are complaining about all the big changes to Dota, especially since Dota came out with another round of really huge changes to the game...
Going to grab the Warcraft 3 remake and start playing Dota again, not Dota 2.
I want to see the numbers before and after that came out. So that's going to be really interesting to me.
I think the keyest indicator will be what's the prize for the Dota 2 Internationals the year after the Warcraft 3 remake comes out.
That is true.
That's where you're going to see the real evidence. I mean, I don't particularly care one way or another. As far as I'm concerned, all MOBAs can crash and burn horribly, but...
Yeah, I don't actually play Dota or League of Legends or anything like that. I dabble in Heroes of the Storm, but that's because Heroes of the Storm whittles down everything but the basic core concept of a MOBA, and even gets rid of the things like gold and individual leveling.
Blizzard incredibly simplified a game concept to the point where it doesn't really resemble anything that attracted the majority of players to that game concept to begin with? You don't say.
Yep.
I know that worked for Hearthstone.
Kind of. Except I... well, I mean, it It depends upon what you mean by worked for.
It is easily the most successful digital card game.
Yes, but that's because it has a lot of people playing it that weren't really card game players. It's the same thing with Heroes of the Storm. A lot of people play Heroes of the Storm that weren't really MOBA players. A lot of people play Overwatch that weren't really team-based team design class-based shooter players.
Yes, but one of these worked better than the other. Heroes of the Storm didn't so much draw in a new audience anywhere near as well as Overwatch or Hearthstone did.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll give it that, but it's like, for me, as somebody who has a background in literally decades of playing Magic along with some other CCGs that don't really kind of exist anymore, am used to the actual complexities and strategies of CCGs, and therefore got bored to fucking tears by Hearthstone within a couple hours of starting it.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. So that's the point I'm making, is it's a matter of what you deem as far as like success or working. To me, like, I understand from a business perspective, absolutely, Hearthstone is the most successful digital card game. And as somebody who plays CCGs, it's barely a fucking card game. It is slightly more complex than playing War.
There's more actual game to it. It is still incredibly simple, basically, and oddly enough, feels random for how much they've stripped out of it.
Yeah, for me, I'm much more inclined to play a game more along the lines of Hex or Eternal, which has a lot more of the classic style CCG, like Magic level of strategy to it and deck building.
Nonetheless, the audience hasn't really branched out to anything like that.
Yeah.
And I do wonder about that. It may just be a general lack of interest in looking for anything deeper.
Well, I mean, again, it's kind of what it is because the people who are playing Hearthstone that came into Hearthstone aren't playing Hearthstone because they're CCG players. They're playing Hearthstone because it's a Blizzard property.
There's partially that too.
They're not playing it because, I'm going to get into CCGs. They're playing it because, it's something, I'm into WoW, or I'm into this, or I'm into, I like Blizzard property, so I'm going to play the games that Blizzard makes.
I think it also helps they probably have one of the better models when it comes to the actual digital card collecting.
Yeah. I suppose.
In the sense that it feels friendlier to the newer player. How much it actually works out to in the end is another question entirely, but...
Yeah. I don't know. I guess just for me, I don't disrespect Hearthstone. I don't not acknowledge what it has accomplished, but to it will always kind of be like it's like, God, how do I phrase it without sounding gatekeepery? Like, I don't blame people who play Hearthstone and enjoy Hearthstone. You enjoy it. Awesome. Cool. To me, it's never going to be an appealing game. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. Just because it is so simplified from what I'm used to in a CCG that it doesn't interest me. Like, I'm not going to say there's no complexity to the deck building. It has its own intricacies. It has its complexities. They're just not complexities of the style and on the level that I like complexity in a CCG. And it's raining.
Yes, it is raining inside this tunnel.
At one of these points, I'm going to go into the controls and just rig things like the lights and the windshield wipers to my bumpers rather than the keyboard, since the bumpers currently just operate those turn signals, which do technically exist in this game, and I'm not sure why.
Because when you have max realism up, you get penalized for taking a turn without having
No, you don't.
You don't?
No.
Oh.
There is literally nothing in this game that cares about the turn signals one way or another. There is a single checkbox as to whether or not the turn signals automatically turn off after you've made a turn. Other than that, nothing in this game cares about the turn signals, including the AI.
If you're using this as a truck driving trainer, they're technically important.
True, but...
Yeah. They don't matter for us. They
No.
matter for other people who'd be playing this game from, like, super realism angle.
Yeah. Now, granted, if you're doing it as a truck driving trainer, you're also not using an Xbox controller.
Yeah.
Unless you have somehow rigged up your big rig to work on an Xbox controller, in which case that's actually kind of fucking awesome. Should technically be possible now that I think about it.
Maybe? Well, that's the wrong way.
Yes.
Took that turn a little too tight. That's fine. I was going to have to hit the repair shop anyways. We're almost to our destination. So it should be noted, as you level up in this game, you get access to different sort of quote-unquote skills, which are just sort of modifiers to the kinds of jobs you have available. And I already maxed out the high-value cargo skill, so jobs are generally worth more, and the one I've been increasing most recently with my levels is long distance, so that's why the jobs I've taken are fucking forever. Like, I technically still have access to go do little short jobs that take, like, in-game, like 2 hours or so. But they don't pay nearly as well overall. Like, this job we're doing right now is worth like 15K or 20K or something along those lines. The shorter jobs are usually commensurately much lower pay. And we have the remnants of a 400,000 euro loan to pay off, so... And by remnants, I mean most of it.
That's kind of how loans tend to work. You borrow $400,000, you owe $450,000.
Pretty much. Hopefully the town we're delivering this to has a repair shop, because not all of them do.
A mod for this game just puts Slender Man in the distance near the tree line.
I'm sure there probably already is one. There's a lot of mods for this game. I don't actually play with any of them, because, But yeah, there's a lot of mods for this game.
Is there one that lets you truck through the Mushroom Kingdom?
Maybe.
I'm sure there's one for Gary's mod that lets you do that.
Drive a truck through the Mushroom Kingdom?
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
Whether it's work safe or not, 50-50, but there's definitely one that lets you do it. Princess, put your royal mushroom away.
But she needs that for blocking attacks.
Not that royal mushroom. But so to go back to an earlier conversation, because we were talking about Fallout. And so I have found a few games that like pretty accurately remake the old school Fallout feeling. Because even among like, you know, the classic RPG style games, Fallout kind of had its own feeling.
Yeah, about the only other game that came anywhere close, I would say, is like Wasteland.
Yeah, Wasteland 2 is really good, especially the...
Well, I was talking about like Wasteland 1 being from that same era.
Oh, yeah.
Similar in feel to classic Fallout.
But yeah, nowadays, if you're looking for games that can do that, like Wasteland 2, especially the director's cut, is great. Under Rail was a indie RPG that came out, I want to say, about a year and a half ago.
Fuck you!
It came out about, I want to say, a year and a half, 2 years ago. It was in early access for a long time, but it finally released. And it's basically Fallout 1 and 2. Like, it was very clearly made to be like, oh, well, they're never going to make Fallout again, so we'll just make something that looks just enough like it.
What do you want? Over there? Get fucked.
Well, you don't want to try and back it in?
I mean, I can do it, it's just the amount of time it takes is not really worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not half bad at doing those. It's just the difference between doing that and doing this is I get 15 experience for doing this. I got 40 for doing that. Like, it's not worth it. Sometimes you'll have the pull-ins that'll be worth 90, and those I'll usually try unless they're in one of the really fucky places. But for an extra 25 experience, it's not worth my fucking time.
I do wonder if somebody's designed a game like this, but with the almost the polar opposite idea of the experience system, where you just actually become completely ridiculous.
What do you mean?
Just like instead of like minor little bonuses from the experience system, or make more money on things. Like actual significant and completely ridiculous things like
Like leveling up your speed of your truck or leveling up your turning and things like that. So you start doing weird physics breaking J turns in a semi.
Start installing Speed Racer style jumps into your truck. Still playing the exact same type of gameplay.
I don't think anybody's done that, no.
Buzzsaw blades in the front.
May have gone a bit wrong here. I did not mean to cross this bridge.
Where are you going?
There's a repair shop over there in the town that I was going to try and head to, but then I read the map wrong. So now
we're going to drive in front of this bus.
Yep. He'll stop. Or not.
He stopped. There you go.
I'm heading to the repair shop anyway. The fuck do I care?
Yeah.
It's a couple hundred extra euros for the extra couple percentage damage he did to me.
Yep.
Like, I'm at like 25% damage. It's already going to be a ridiculous repair bill. The extra little expense doesn't matter so much.
Yeah, you got booped on the snoot, so what?
Yeah, I don't know. The biggest thing to me, like, it sounds interesting, but at the same time, I don't know that there would be much of a market for that style of game. Because if you're going to go that route, you're not going to appeal to the simulation type players who want more realism, and you're going to be too realistic just in the gameplay wise to appeal to people that would want like an arcade style.
Yeah, you're probably right on that.
Like that's my thought on it. That's probably why something like that hasn't really happened, is just because there's not really an audience for it.
Yeah, kind of be between two audiences and not really satisfying either.
Yeah. Which is
Now,
just a
put
really
zombies in it.
Well, then you're just appealing to fucking idiots who play zombie games.
But those idiots have money.
No, they don't. That's why they play things like DayZ. Service. Yeah. 11 grand for repairs.
But you still have 30,000 left.
Yeah.
After repairs.
Yeah, so it's like 11 grand for repairs is a fair amount, except that I'm starting to get jobs now that are in like the 15 to 20K per job. So it's not a huge deal.
Now your next job, parallel park.
No, that just involves him ramming cars out of the way.
You're not wrong.
Put a cow catcher on the front of it.
Let's see what jobs you got for me here. I am technically at the point where I could buy my own trailer and start taking cargo jobs, which also have different pay scales. Sure, we'll take this one, and that'll probably take the rest of the stream.
Well, that works.
Because that's going all the way down into Italy. on the other side of Italy at that. But it is 33 fucking grand, so...
Yep.
Yep, from Austria into Italy. If I stop over in Switzerland for no reason.
I mean, technically it's kind of on the way if we were heading that direction.
Yeah.
We could actually pass through Switzerland to make it to Italy from Austria. Yeah, so there's actually a trick to the backup stuff in this game, which is once I kind of learned about the trick and really figured out how to use it, that's how I became good at doing the actual parking of the trailer. So basically you have those mirrors there that show you essentially what you're seeing out of your side view mirrors.
Yeah.
And you basically just tilt the steering, you steer towards, you get them, get the target area in those mirrors, and then just steer towards whichever one you need. If it's in the right mirror, you steer right. If it's in the left mirror, you steer left. If it's decently evenly in both mirrors, you just try and go as straight back as possible. That's really all it is.
That makes sense.
And I mean, that's essentially accurate for real world driving too. It's just in real world driving, it's significantly harder to have both side view mirrors in view at the same time. And also there's not a glowing white rectangle to guide you to your target area.
Not until we started installing heads-up displays into our truckers.
Which would be fucking awesome. But
Yes. Realistically, it'd be something like Google Glasses or something.
yeah.
That's something they've always talked about doing, but they always find some problem or another with it.
And that problem is people who hate the advance of technology because they're frightened of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me my fucking Johnny Mnemonic future already, goddammit.
You want the Johnny Mnemonic future?
Hell yeah.
I don't want Keanu Reeves to be our shepherd.
Too late. Look, that man befriended Abraham Lincoln and a caveman, alright?
Yeah, Keanu Reeves is his own archetype in movies.
Listen, he's great. He learned all about our history. He beat death. And if you need a guardian, you're just gonna fuck with John Wick.
This is technically the best way to beat Thanos.
Yeah.
John Wick.
Yeah, have
Yeah,
Thanos
John
kill
Wick-
John Wick's
John Wick-
dog, then
yeah,
tell
John Wick killed John-
Thanos killed his dog.
Yeah, John Wick killed Thanos' dog.
There's a 50-50 chance that happened already.
Yeah, and if it did, Thanos is fucked.
Yep.
Well, now they know the plot of Avengers 4.
Alright, so in addition to keeping an eye out so I don't miss my goddamn exit again, I also need to keep an eye out for a gas station, because we're at about a third of a tank. We have a 12-hour drive ahead of us, which a third of a tank is not going to get us through.
So the road signs standardized basically for all of Europe?
I believe things like speed limit signs are. Other things are not. However, thus far in the game, we've basically only really traveled through Germany and Austria, which have very similar styles. So,
The language is virtually the same.
yeah.
Yeah.
Once we get into vastly different countries, like if I was taking stuff into Scandinavia or when I go to Poland, the road signs are very different.
Mm-hmm.
The UK is completely different, but I don't actually have... Thus far from the areas I've mostly been around, my long distance doesn't stretch quite far enough to actually get me into the UK. Like right now, I think 1,100 kilometers is the top end of my jobs I'll be offered.
Mm.
Which is just not far enough, basically, to get me to the UK from the sort of central Germany area I've mostly been hanging around.
Well, that makes sense in a way.
Because it doesn't take into account like ferry travel and stuff like that. When I talk about that, it's 1,100 kilometers of actual road travel.
Okay, so it's ferry beyond. That would make sense.
Yeah, you get to the shore in like France or wherever you happen to be hopping off on, you get on a ferry to England.
Yep. Go to Normandy, get on a ferry, go across, conquer the country, make everyone speak French. Only not really. Only the nobility.
Gas station.
Then confuse everyone that has to speak English for the next few hundred years, or few thousand years, or something. I'm tired of going off on tangents. Somebody say something.
Somehow griffins are involved.
Inexplicably, yes.
Contextual to your sort of slight tangent there, there have been several times during my teaching where when a child has had trouble spelling a particular word, I've told them to blame the French.
We're good. We're golden. Everything's fine. Moving on.
He knows what he did.
Whee!
The French aren't entirely to blame for all of the problems with English.
Most of them.
Yes. They're hardly the only people that have invaded England.
I mean, you're not wrong, but most of the really dumb English word spellings are because of the French.
Yes. It doesn't hurt that a lot of them are also the Danes, and quite frankly,
We've been learning about animals, and one of my students asked me, why does camouflage spelled like that? And I said, because the French are assholes.
did you actually say what?
I didn't say assholes, but no,
You're trying to become a teacher, right?
I told him, no, I just told him, because it's a French word, and the French don't spell things like they sound.
He can't say assholes until he gets tenure.
Yeah.
That takes quite a while, and some blowjobs.
I did actually, like, I am a little bit looser with my students than I probably should be. Like, when we were still talking about animals, and people, question came up about, like, because they're doing a research project, and they're learning about various animals and stuff like that, and one of my students was learning about pigs, and they were talking about it, and it was like, well, what, and it just kind of came up about how smart pigs are, and I said, pigs are actually pretty remarkably smart. They're, like, dependent upon classification and how you judge such things, they're usually considered one of the 5 smartest animals.
Yes. Which is why if vegans get their way, we have to genocide all the pigs.
And then another student who happens to be doing their research project on horses asked me how smart horses were. And my exact response was, horses might be one of the dumbest animals on the face of the earth. Like, technically speaking, I'm not supposed to use the word dumb in class, but, there's no other way to put it. Horses are fucking idiots.
Horses have not been bred for their intelligence.
Horses will get so startled by a plastic bag flying in front of them that they will have a heart attack and die. This is seriously a thing that happens.
This is, in fact, a thing that happens with horses.
They will get so fucking spooked by a goddamn grocery bag that they have a fucking cardiac arrest. Not even flying towards them, just kind of in an area where they can see it. God, horses are fucking stupid.
What do we think of Company of Heroes?
Company Heroes? If I'm being honest, I think in my entire life I've played like 15 minutes of Company of Heroes. That's like RTS style, and I've never been a huge RTS fan. I'm more of a turn-based strategy fan.
Yeah.
I was a lot more of a fan of the second one than the first one, but Company of Heroes also came out at a time when I was real heavily into Red Alert, and Company of Heroes was way too much of a modern kind of RTS, as opposed to the minion blob sort of old school RTS.
StarCrafty,
Warcrafty.
Warcrafty.
Yeah, Warcraft.
Command and Conquer.
Exactly.
I mean, I've got to say, if I'm being totally honest too, like I haven't played a whole lot of Company Heroes, and if I was going to, I'd probably just play Dawn of War instead.
It's kind of the natural evolution of the engine.
Yeah, because they used a very similar mechanical basis for the Dawn of War games, and if I'm being real, I care a lot more about the Warhammer 40k universe than I do World War II.
It also doesn't help that Company of Heroes 2 also had the microtransaction model for a bunch of extra generals and stuff like
Did it?
that. Yep.
Jesus.
I mean, granted, a mod came out that because it was all on
that
disc.
Right, it just was.
So.
It was a flag to unlock.
Yeah.
So somebody, of course, found that flag and just said, "Hey, do this."
Yep.
Fine, got it. But even still, like, yeah, I would just play Dawn of War over Company of Heroes.
I do wish we actually had like footage on audio of you and Mackie playing Dawn of War, especially the Tyranid campaign.
No, you don't.
It'd be heavily edited, but
you have a bleep sound effect, right?
Yes.
There are some words even we won't let ourselves say publicly and release that footage.
Also, I don't know. Was it really?
And I'm not talking about our Disney joke.
Ah, God damn it. That aside, I don't. Why would there be that much cussing in the Tyranid campaign? From what I remember you guys describing, it was the Hive Tyrant did everything while the rest of the army just fucked off, and you basically played with it.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that they would be cussing because it's difficult and frustrating them. I'm saying they'd be cussing because they don't have anything to fucand do.
We came up with some elaborate skits involving
and let's be real here. Like, when the Krampus and Shiv go off on tangents, they can sometimes get pretty fucking offensive. Yeah. Like, it's fine interior to our group. I don't think we want the world at large to know how horrible people we actually are.
Some darkness must be hidden for the good of mankind. Speaking of which, third question.
Yo.
Darkest Dungeon.
Oh, I love Darkest Dungeon. I'm awful at it. I have never actually managed to make it any decent distance into Darkest Dungeon, but conceptually I absolutely love that game.
I'm glad that Radiant mode came out because it gives me a chance to actually finish that game. It basically like halves the game length.
Yeah.
It makes it quicker, it makes it a little
Generally
easier.
makes it a little bit easier, makes the RNG favor you a bit more.
Exactly. It also gives you more resources and lets you retain more resources up front. If that had not come out, I probably would never have done it. The DLC for it, on the other hand, is hit or miss.
Like the Red Court?
Crimson Court.
Crimson Court.
The Crimson Court is not great, and that's being generous to it at times. It's essentially taking the pendulum that is the RNG in that game and attaching a spike to one end of it. If it swings the wrong way, it basically kills a run.
Yeah. I haven't actually played Darkest Dungeon since they released the whole like Radiant mode thing, just because in that time a lot of my rogue light sort of tendencies have gone towards other games.
Yeah.
If I'm being real, primarily Slay the Spire, because I fucking love deck building games.
Slay the Spire is really good.
But yeah, I do really enjoy Darkest Dungeons. I'm fucking awful at it. The way the math works in that game just does not click with like the way I think about math, and that just ends runs very poorly. not missing my exit this time.
Nope.
Nope.
And not having to do your...
It's a Thanksgiving miracle.
Not having to do your double traffic stopping Alabama boomerang turn.
Also, going back to another topic of earlier discussion, just to bring up, just to put this out there publicly, since it's a well-known opinion amongst our friends. We were talking about Blizzard properties, and it should be noted that everything I say about Blizzard should be taken with a grain of salt, because I will never forgive Blizzard until they give me my fucking Lost Vikings 3. Moving on.
Some people grind an axe forever.
Yep.
It's like me, with all of the MMOs that I played.
It will not grind forever. My axe will be firmly and finally ground once they give me fucking Lost Vikings 3. I know you remember them. You put them in Heroes of the Storm.
Well, to answer that question, I think you own American Truck Simulator, but...
I do own American Truck Simulator, if I'm being totally honest. Euro Truck Simulator 2 is more fun. American Truck Simulator did this very weird thing where, kind of similar in a way to Euro Truck Simulator, in that, quote-unquote, American Truck Simulator, when it released, was like 3 states, and has slowly, over time, released more states, and slowly growing. But the other thing about it is, if I'm being real, America is boring to look at.
Yeah. One half of it is woods, and one half of it is desert.
And then there's the scrublands, which make woods and deserts look really, really pretty in comparison.
Yeah, I honestly prefer Euro Truck to American Truck Simulator. I actually technically pre-ordered American Truck Simulator when they announced it. By which I mean I bought it on Steam like the day before it actually released, just so I could preload it. But I played it a bit, and just honestly, in general, I like Euro Truck more. I don't know why. It's mechanically basically identical.
Though we are kind of biased when it comes to the terrain in the United States. We live in San Diego, where the ocean is the ocean, and beaches are the beaches, as manufacturers they are. There's a few nice areas, and there's everything else, which if you had actually looked at it, especially up close in real life, you would want to pave over it and make literally anything else out of it. There are sections of San Diego County I accurately describe as purgatory.
Yeah. Abandon hope, all ye who enter here.
Yeah.
It's not the gates of hell. It's not bad. It's not good.
It's limbo.
Just kind of a gray mess.
Yeah, it's aggressively nothing.
Oh, also, let's be real here. Me owning a game isn't really any indicator as to whether or not I enjoy it, or in fact have even played it. I own a lot of games on Steam.
It's true. On a lark.
I think my Steam library has finally crested 4 digits. I tried not to ram the gate this time.
Have you gotten into 3 digits of games you've actually played in your Steam library?
I've probably played 100 games. I don't know that I've played 200 of the games I own. I could look this up, but I don't want to. It would depress me.
I do run into the occasional problem of I played this game technically, but I haven't played it on Steam, so it doesn't count.
Yeah. I don't think I own any games that I have played but not on Steam, at least a little bit. However, there are some games where my time count is inaccurate on Steam because, for instance, Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley, I have played probably close to 600 hours in, but on Steam it only shows 140 or so, because for most of it I've been playing modded Stardew Valley, and for a long time I didn't bother actually linking that into Steam. so it wouldn't detect any of the times I was playing it modded.
To be more accurate, America isn't so much boring as it's very spread out, and the stuff in between is not actually that interesting. And a lot of it.
Yeah, like this scenery we're seeing right here, like having these mountains and these nice forests and so on and so forth, that's an incredibly small fraction of America that would look like something like this. Most of America is flat and has some fucking bushes.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah.
The I think we're quite spoiled by our mountainous and textured scenery in California. I went to visit Alley in Illinois, and it was like nothing. It's just flat.
Illinois is fucking flat.
It was really surreal. Like I felt
the most
kind of scared.
The most interesting the most interesting structure in Illinois is all man-made because everything else is just fucking flat. It is either flat or water.
Yeah, well,
and that's like. I'd say probably a good 70 to 80% of the United States is flat or water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, granted, it makes it a great place to build. There's a good reason why Texas consists of cities that are just
massive.
All I'm saying is that if you've lived your entire life in land that actually has contours and texture to it, flat land is a little oppressive.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find the flatlands with bushes around here too, or the hills with bushes around here too, which are sparsely better.
It's true, but I could still usually look into the distance and see a mountain rising. Not so in Illinois.
Yeah, it's
I
like
can look into the distance and see nothing. I haven't felt so out of it since. If it weren't for the buildings, I haven't felt so out of it since I saw like salt flats.
Yeah, like no joke. I've driven cross country twice because I moved out to South Carolina, I moved back from South Carolina, and we drove both times. Like, not joking, being from California, being from San Diego in particular, you almost get vertigo in some parts of the United States just because of how far away the horizon is.
It is a little scary.
So to definitively answer your question, yeah, we think Europe is more interesting than America, but in kind of a familiarity breeds contempt kind of way. I'm sure people who come here find it interesting, like seeing the scrublands and things like that, and seeing all the other stuff.
Well, and especially, I think one of the big things for Europeans is like when they develop the realization of just how far apart everything in America is, because like
true.
You think about it, like in Europe, you can drive in a lot of places in Europe, you can drive an hour and be in a different country. We can't even drive an hour and be in a different state where we live.
Well, okay, we can't be in a different state.
We can be in a different country.
We can be in a different country because we're literally on the border of Mexico.
But like
okay, yeah, that aside, yes.
Okay, let me put it this way: there are many places in Europe where you can drive for an hour, and depending on which direction you go, you could be in 3 or 4 different countries.
Yeah.
We can't drive an hour and be in a different state.
Yeah.
Like
I can't even make it to the nearest biggest city.
Yeah,
in
we
an hour.
we can't even make it to the next big city over in an hour. That's usually like 2.5 to 3 if traffic is good.
And considering it's LA,
1.5 if you're really charitable.
Yeah,
like if things are perfect sailing.
Yeah. LA traffic varies between bad and why the fuck do you people even bother having roads?
You would get the same kind of travel time fucking burrowing.
Yeah. I mean, from one standpoint, yeah, better than mountain ranges. But that's because you've been seeing a lot of mountain ranges. You've seen a lot of mountain ranges. Been around a lot of mountain ranges. If I could, see this in person, it'd be amazing to me. Just to look out and see this valley full of trees and green hills. We don't get greenery out here.
Yeah, we basically live in a desert that we have forcefully made grow plants.
Yeah. It doesn't help that San Diego is particularly dry.
Praise the gods, we have hot water. That's all I have to say. Like hot water.
We're a developing nation here. Soon we'll have medicine.
Yeah, sorry again to audience chatting with us. By the way, I appreciate you chatting with us. It does make this pass better.
Yeah.
I still can't see chat, and again, I'm still trying to pay attention on not slamming into this concrete divider next to me, but they're doing their best to relay.
These conversations I've been bringing up are from the chat.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's why, normally, so we do sort of a rotating thing here on Sound Goblin, if you're not familiar with us, where each basically, on a week-by-week basis, each of us picks a game to play, and we play it. So this happens to be my week. Normally, I'm the one actually monitoring Twitch chat and everything like that, and I'm usually a bit more on top of it. I'm Bograt, or Josh, by the way, in case you missed our intro. But yeah, so normally I'm keeping an eye on it, so I'll respond to stuff that goes up in chat. But yeah, tonight, not happening.
This requires laser-like concentration, or you get those Alabama boomerang turns.
Or, spending most of the profit I make off of a successful run on repairing my truck because I've hit fucking everything.
Mm-hmm.
Improvised driving.
Like, quite literally, there were times during the couple weeks I've been working on this particular session where I would turn my attention for like 5 seconds just to grab the soda next to me, and I would flip my truck completely over.
I'm bringing back to the topics that are getting brought up. Like, yeah, I mean, imagine Russia would have the same kind of issue where a person from Russia
takes fucking forever to, like, it's huge.
Yeah, Russia is. I want to say that's bigger than the U.S. by.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Russia is literally the biggest country.
Landmass, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, just by raw land mass. So, yeah, they've got the same kind of problem where a person from Russia probably would, look at this kind of thing or, at any terrain that they haven't been looking at for the last X decades and say, no, I'd like to go there for a vacation just because it's kind of different. Different. But, yeah, I imagine it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah,
and to be fair, there's nothing wrong with looking at America's scrublands and going, man, that looks awesome. Just those vast open fields of nothingness you can drive through. And it looks pretty good.
It's just to us,
yeah.
it's boring. It's commonplace. We've seen it a lot.
It was amazing for the first X decades, and now we're here.
No, it really is just a matter of, like, everything we say and the opinions we have about this stuff should all be taken with the context of we are from America, we live here, so the American scenery is not at all fascinating to us. For those of you keeping count, I missed my exit again, I think.
Take a shot. Got it.
It's okay. It can be fixed.
It can be fixed, or we've just invented a new drinking game.
We've already invented...
Don't do that. don't. Please, viewers, do not do a drinking game where you take a shot every time I miss my exit. You will die.
We've already invented a new trucking maneuver.
So the thing you... Oh, that's not new. I do that a lot.
We've already done it with stream.
Yeah. The thing you have to understand about me playing this game is, even in real life, I sort of drive by recognition of landmarks and, like, memory, and I don't really... Despite how much I've actually played Euro Truck Simulator, I don't really have any sort of landmark memory for all of this stuff. So I never can plan in advance where the hell I'm going or how to get there.
Well, one of the issues with that is, unlike trucking and you don't have, like, any repeating routes, do you?
I mean, I've gone from city A to city B a few times, but even then, I get confused and turned around. Like, it happens. So when I was starting this one up, starting based out of Nuremberg, I did a lot of Nuremberg to Stuttgart, Nuremberg to Dresden, a lot of those routes, because they were kind of the limit. They were the farthest routes I could do with the stats I had. Yeah. And so I did them a lot, but even then, every time, it was like I had to follow my GPS because I didn't remember what the hell I was doing.
Also, I can totally respect not getting drunk off of our incredibly dangerous drinking game in order to actually study. So, he's sitting up on corpse anatomy, which means he's either a medical student or into something worrying and dark. I'm going to go with medical student.
I'm contractually obligated to inform you that studying is important by virtue of being a teacher.
That's true.
He could also be a necromancer.
Could be a necromancer.
He could be a necromancer.
Well, he'd be training to be a necromancer, because if he's studying up on corpse anatomy, he's not currently a necromancer.
I mean, technically speaking, even when you're interning as a nurse, you're still a nurse.
Yeah, by virtue of I say that I'm a teacher. I'm technically a student teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
because becoming a teacher in California is...
Oh, don't get me started.
Yeah.
I have a week off. I don't want to fucking...
Yeah, we're trying to avoid the real world right now. That's why we're playing Euro Truck Simulator. We are as far from our real jobs as possible here.
For a state that ostensibly has a teacher shortage, they sure as hell do not seem to want teachers. On the bright side, all my experience on doing stuff for Twitch and YouTube made the school assignment I had to do most recently really fucking funny.
How so?
Well, I had to make a 3-minute how-to video to, like a presentation on teaching how to do something in 3 minutes. And I'm pretty sure they were not prepared for a student to have their own soundproofed audio recording studio and experience with, fairly significant experience with video editing software. I straight up produced this, 3-minute video that had cleaned audio and video production. I grabbed a Creative Commons license instrumental jazz piano track to use as backing music and had it duck when I was speaking and come up in volume when I was not to fill empty air and cover over some slight room sounds that were too difficult to scrub. They were not prepared for that, I am sure. About the only thing I could have improved with the video was lighting, just because we don't have lighting rig stuff over here.
No, that'd be at Robert's place, basically.
Yeah.
No, if we actually wanted to, we could professionally produce things.
Oh, absolutely.
Well. Yeah.
Between all the stuff we've basically fumbled ass backwards through into finding our way to learn how to do it, we're actually remarkably competent at all this stuff by now.
Yes.
Even if I did forget to set the bit rate back up from 800 for a month and a half.
Well,
Right up until we were playing Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. And I noticed we were playing the voxel version of Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance according to the stream.
Something get more or less viewable.
More likely to vomit.
And yes, the theme of tonight could very well be we are missing turns.
That's the theme of my entire existence in this game. But I still get there on time, so it's okay. The delivery jobs in this usually have a fair amount of leeway.
Yeah. Except for what, the urgent jobs?
Yeah, so there is... Well, so the urgent jobs are... So the on-time delivery skill does not actually give you specifically urgent jobs. It is just you get bonuses for being early, essentially. It increases the... You get a percentage bonus of the pay based on how quickly you get it there, essentially. And I very rarely ever actually take that skill because, as you may have noticed, I get lost a lot. It's okay, though. As soon as my other two drivers in Sound Goblin Truckin actually kind of skill up and start making decent enough money on their runs so that I can afford to have them just do their runs to pay off our daily payment on the loans, that's when I stop taking jobs for a little while and actually just start free driving around to unlock a bunch of places. But nice. As of yet, they're still pretty low skill just because, one of them I straight out just hired, and even though I hired the highest rating trucker I could, they were a 1.7.
On a scale of?
I think 10.
Ah, okay.
And I'm pretty sure it's like the Richter. I'm pretty sure it's a logarithmic scale. So, yeah. One of the guys, the first driver I ended up hiring right when we first actually got to the level where I could take a big enough loan to get a second truck and a driver, is actually almost the same level as I am at this point. So, he is not bad at all. He makes decent money. He makes, not the kind of money we make, because he's still much lower level than we are. But, you'll occasionally see it scroll down at the bottom of my GPS that he's making a run. He sometimes makes in the thousands for a run he does, like 1800. So when I said that this run may take the rest of the stream, I may have significantly underestimated how much I would get lost and how off course we would go. Because we have about 20-ish minutes until our usual end time and about 7 in-game hours of travel left. So we might run a little late.
What does an in-game hour equate to?
I'm not
ways outside Barstow before the drugs began to take hold.
I'm not actually 100% sure. There used to be, unless I fucking hallucinated, I'm pretty sure in an earlier build of this game, you were actually able to set the time scale. But that option, either I wholly imagined it at some point, or they have removed it, or I can't find it. I think 1 hour in-game equates to like 24 minutes. But I'm not sure. No, that seems wrong. I think it might be 12 minutes. I don't know. I'm sure if you look it up on the wiki, somebody's probably calculated all of this. For those who keep count, I went the wrong way on the freeway again, so this is the game guiding me to go turn around.
Barstow, one of those towns in not San Diego, in California.
Fucking Barstow.
So there are a few towns that basically exist just to be rest stops on the way between California and other places you might actually want to go.
Barstow's sole purpose for existing is to be your last sign of civilization before hitting Las Vegas.
Yes, because Baker sure as hell doesn't count as civilization.
Well, and if you're going the particular route that I usually use, you don't go through Baker.
Mm.
You basically head straight from Barstow out that way towards Nevada through the mountains. Technically speaking, you hit Primm before you hit Las Vegas, but Primm may as well be the fucking suburb of Vegas.
Is Barstow also an oil town?
It might have been. I don't remember seeing any rigs there, though, so if it ever was, it was so long ago that they've gotten rid of all relics thereof. Barstow seems mostly to be a couple gas stations, a whole lot of storage units, and desperation. If any of our viewers are from Barstow, who am I kidding? You don't have internet.
No. We're being slightly facetious about the whole drug addicts thing.
Yeah,
So he's asking if there are a lot of drug addicts in our city.
In our city, no. In Barstow, oh god, yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to do in Barstow.
Those are usually the cities that actually have the worst drug problems, if anything. The ones that are literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, San Diego doesn't have a huge drug problem. I mean, California in general has a significantly smaller drug problem ever since the state legalized marijuana, so it's no longer really considered a drug. But other than that, the only thing that San Diego really has, I'd say about once every 5 years, we have a meth lab in El Cajon blow up.
Yeah. Which is a similar reason as to why those places like Barstow tend to have drug problems, as they're great places to make meth.
Yes.
I.e. the middle of nowhere where no one looks.
Yeah. But no, San Diego doesn't have a huge drug problem at all.
No.
Not like Los Angeles, where eventually you are hit with the crushing realization that you live in Los Angeles and have only drugs to turn to for solace. So for any viewers of this, either on Twitch or in later on through the YouTube channel, are confused by this, literally everyone in California who doesn't live in Los Angeles fucking hates Los Angeles. We understand that, like, to the vast majority of the world, including the rest of the United States, Los Angeles is the mental image of California, and like Hollywood is a big deal. We all hate Los Angeles. It is a festering plastic shithole.
It also doesn't help the fact that basically our entire state politics are dominated by basically Los Angeles. Because they're just so much bigger in population.
Yeah.
Thus, San Diego, which has a population bigger than most states, does no control over its own state government.
Pretty much. We are not going to get deep into the discussion of the fallacies and problems of representative government, though.
It's too close to
That is-
actual politics.
That is also way too deep a conversation for Euro Truck.
What you're saying is I need to do the Great Political Machine next time.
I was going to make that joke, you beat me to it, and no, I'll fucking strangle you before I allow that on our show. That's not a thing that's going to happen.
Nope.
So yeah, as far as I can tell, Barstow has pretty much everything you described and nothing else.
Yeah, like, that's not a joke. I've been through Barstow multiple times. I know what's there.
Yeah.
I go through there every time I go to Vegas, which, while I haven't been recently, there was a period where I went every year for like 4 years. And I do the same path every time I go to Vegas, and that path takes me through Barstow, where I stop and get gas, because otherwise I will run out before I get to Vegas, because there's nothing between Barstow and Vegas. Which is not to say that there's anything in Barstow either.
And then there's Bakersfield, which exists entirely because it's an oil field.
Bakersfield or Baker?
Bakersfield, I believe.
Because you're accurate for both.
Yeah. There's actually a good amount of oil in California, just that is not what we're famous for.
Baker at least has a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Big thermometer.
Uh,
I'm not even joking about that. That's the only notable thing about Baker.
our city is a Navy base, effectively.
What was the question?
There are any Navy ports in your city.
Yes. We are the largest naval base on the west coast of the United States. Roughly a third of the United States Pacific Fleet is based out of San Diego.
Yeah, our city...
We are a Navy town. The
Yeah.
reason we are as big as we are is because we are a Navy town.
Yeah.
And have been for fucking ever.
Yeah. We've diversified since then, so San Diego, if the Navy, for some stupid reason, decided to pull out of San Diego...
We wouldn't collapse.
But
we have a lot of Navy and a lot of military industrial industry here because the Navy has a major presence here.
yes. And a related note, if nuclear war breaks out, we're dead. Like, they will shoot us before LA.
No joke. Like that's one of the few accuracies of the strange but kind of good movie Battle of Los Angeles. One of the commentaries they actually make in it, like at the very beginning, is that San Diego is gone because it's one of the first. Like the aliens fuck up San Diego well before they hit Los Angeles because we are way more militarily important. Like not only are we roughly 1/3 of the United States Pacific Fleet here, we also are like the West Coast Marine Corps training happens here.
Camp Pendleton is in San Diego.
Yeah, well, it's
It's
outside of San Diego, but it's in San Diego County.
It is technically entirely encompassed by San Diego County in the sense there's like 2 blocks north of Camp Pendleton that's still San Diego County.
So like we have a huge Navy presence, we have a huge Marine presence, there's some Air Force here. I don't think we really have Army bases here, but
We don't have Army, that's the, I think, only thing we don't have.
yeah. But yeah, so we have, and technically we don't actually have an Air Force base here, but we have the Marine Corps air stations, which the Air Force shares. So yeah, we are actually a pretty heavily military town.
We are prepared to fight off that Japanese invasion.
Anytime. Whenever it's coming. Surely.
Wasn't it Koreans in the Red Dawn remake?
I think
No,
so.
I think you're thinking of Homefront, the video game.
No, because the original Red Dawn was, I want to say, the Red Chinese, and then in the remake it was Korea. It might be the other way around. It might have been Korea originally, and then China in the remake. Wolverines!
Red Dawn.
Or no, I think Red Dawn, the original, might have been Russia.
The
actually.
original was Russia.
Yeah, that was-
North Korea is the second one
Okay, yeah.
because apparently they're getting less and less realistic over time.
I mean, whatever.
North Koreans invade U.S. soil. How many North Koreans are there?
Well, I mean, okay, let's be fair here. They couldn't. Whoa. So that happens, by the way, because the mouse is still connected to my look controls. Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly fair, they couldn't really have any sort of realism basis and still say it was the Russians, because that's not going to happen anymore.
Fairly unlikely to happen to begin with, but Russian naval power has never really been much of a thing.
No, but I mean, during the Cold War, it was at least theoretically feasible on some, like, insane outside chance that it could actually happen. But now it's like, when it really comes down to it, like, we're never actually going to go to war with Russia again. That's just,
No.
it's not a thing that's going to happen. At least not a military war. We might end up in, like, an economic war with Russia at some point, but that's neither here nor there, because economic wars are basically just flinging our cocks at each other to prove whose is bigger.
Essentially, yeah. Trade wars, especially in a modern global economy, basically hardly do anything.
Oh, my lights have been on this entire time. Good.
Huh.
The lights are on.
That way you can blind the drivers right in front of you.
I will say this much. This game does a really good job of making some really fucking beautiful sunsets.
Yeah.
Yeah. They do a good job of making them not entirely blinding also, so...
I'm not gonna lie, there have been times where I've considered putting on my sunglasses while playing this game. Every once in a while, when it's either just after sunrise or just before sunset, you cannot see shit. I just don't know how much the sunglasses would actually make a difference since it's rendering rather than actual sunlight. Only have 3 hours in-game time left for this run. But yeah. So as you can see, I like playing Euro Truck because it's just sort of a chill experience. Fuck that bus. It's my lane first! Passengers can fucking wait.
Chill experience.
You know, gives you time to think about shit. It's not really a game you have to, like, I have to focus attention on it, but I don't have to focus my thoughts on it by any means.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. Much like actual driving, actually.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, I have to pay attention to what I'm doing, but there's nothing I have to think about while I'm doing this. Like,
In a related note, if you love driving, that's the other thing about San Diego.
what's super weird is I enjoy the hell out of this game. I fucking hate driving.
Huh.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's... I have the ability to disconnect a game experience, even a fairly realistic game experience, from the actual activity in the same way that I fucking hate actual fishing and absolutely love fishing games, even fairly realistic fishing simulators.
I'd assume even the more realistic fishing simulators is significantly less waiting around doing nothing.
You'd think that.
Hmm.
I have waited 2.5 hours to get a bite in Fishing Planet.
Hmm. Did you actually catch that fish?
Yes.
Well, there's that at least.
Couldn't keep it, but I caught it.
Do you keep any fish in that game?
Yes. As long as you have the proper license and they are one of the fish that's not restricted.
Hmm.
It just so happens that the fish that I happened to reel in there was one of the restricted fish. Because the game also has rules and regulations based on real conservation laws. And like, because it's a... I don't know if I technically classify it as an MMO per se, but because it's an online game, they will occasionally sort of change things up based on sort of population simulations for the fish in the game. Like, on the back end in the servers, they actually have something going on that actually, like, runs numbers and goes, okay, well, this fish has been on, like, restricted status for this long, so, you know, we're going to do some RNG stuff to see how much its population numbers have grown, and, okay, it's broken a threshold now, so it will no longer be restricted and now is able to be caught. And this fish, meanwhile, has been unrestricted for so long, and players have caught X many of them, and, you know, given spawn rates and blah, 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 you know, now we're starting to see population decline on these, so those are going to go on. Like, it's a remarkably complex game for a fishing simulator. There's a lot of thought that goes into it.
Thought is more than how do I mine for fish?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, from the player side, it is just go out there and fish. But, like, on the back end, the actual design and dev side of it is actually impressively complex.
Do they also have all the powers of the American Fish and Game Department?
No. Thank God.
It's the most random thing, too.
It's insane how much power the American Fish and Game Department has. For no fucking reason either.
Because then they couldn't hunt cryptids. They need unilateral power to start hunting the werewolves and bandersnatches.
Yeah, I think only Homeland Security surpasses them at this point. And Homeland Security has a lot more scrutiny.
DHS and, strangely, the BLM.
The BLM?
Bureau of Land Management.
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
Yes, believe it or not, there's actually a government alphabet agency that uses that. It's not actually Black Lives Matter.
Well, that can make Twitch extremely awkward at times.
Yeah,
Or
no,
not Twitch,
BLM
Twitter.
is the Bureau of Land Management. It's not a government agency that a lot of people in America have to think much about unless you live in fairly rural areas like Appalachia. Because the Bureau of Land Management basically has the unilateral power to show up and say, this land now belongs to the federal government, get the fuck off of it. Like, there's a process they have to go through for it, but that's basically what they can do. They can decide at any given moment that a particular area is going to fall into the purview of the federal government and can essentially issue eviction notices to everyone who lives there.
So basically, they just blight anything at will.
Yep. They are basically the government agency that has the ability on the federal level to impart eminent domain. And just sort of claim land on behalf of the federal government. And, like, there are rules and restrictions as to what they have to do it, and that it's like, oh, you know, they have to, you know, provide fair offer to the current inhabitants and so on and so
All
forth.
the general rules of eminent domain, yeah.
But it's still, like, you can't say no.
That's how eminent domain works as well, so...
Yeah. It's like, it's such a fucking ridiculous overabuse of power.
Yeah, it's basically streamlining the whole process into one department.
Mm-hmm. I think they may be the only federal agency that is able to implement eminent domain, because eminent domain is typically a state or city level thing.
Generally, yes. I don't think there's any strict restrictions on which level of government can use it. Just that they have to...
Well, I mean, for eminent domain proceedings, absolutely not. But at a federal level, I think the Bureau of Land Management is the only federal agency that basically has a process in place by which they would do it. So any other federal agency, just purely by virtue of the way federal agencies are operated, couldn't really do it because they don't actually have a process in place for it.
So they basically have to go through the Bureau of Land Management.
Well, they'd either have to go through the Bureau of Land Management, or they would have to create a process within their agency to implement it.
Or say screw it and buy it from a willing participant.
Yes.
Which is probably more likely what they're going to do, because trying to go through government bureaucracies is, especially other government bureaucracies than your own.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is just in general, like, they don't institute eminent domain unless they have to.
Yeah.
Like, they will always try to buy from a willing participant, but if they particularly need that plot of land for whatever reason, and the participants and the current owners are not willing, they will implement eminent domain. Like,
yeah. Now, granted, they rarely ever need a particular plot of land, so
I mean, at a federal level, absolutely not.
yeah. At a federal level, they already have shit tons of land, quite frankly.
At a federal level, we have way more land than we have any need to do anything with, and they won't do with all the fucking land out in the Nevada desert what they should do, but create a gigantic solar farm, which would basically solve the entire power problem for the fucking country.
At least during the day.
No, like, literally, they've actually figured out, like, with the amount of power that would be generated and the current ability to build capacitors for it, it would not be just during the day.
Ah, okay. Does it count for transportation?
Not only that, but also the other thing being is that if they were able to build that solar farm, like, yes, even if it would only operate during the day and didn't have any capacitor at all, what that would essentially allow us to do is to use our current power supply solutions to build up capacitors, which we do have in place, and thereby use those power solutions only drawing off them at night, which would solve things like the regular fucking brownouts we have here in California, because we're basically entirely reliant on, like, the Hoover Dam, at least for our major power supply, but we overtax fucking everything because we have way too much population in California and not enough infrastructure.
Building infrastructure in California is an utter pain in the ass. Partially because our government works against building infrastructure in California. As a matter of fact, they tend to destroy infrastructure in California. We used to have like 100+ more dams.
Yep.
Which is also why we have water shortages.
But environmental impact.
The environment is currently burning down at all times. California is on fire. It's particularly bad right now, but that's just kind of a thing that's always there.
Yes.
California is perpetually on fire nowadays.
That's not nowadays. That's just been a thing. California is big and dry enough that it is pretty much always on fire. Looking at the statistics for fire size, it's not actually much different when it comes to just, I think, like the 2 of the 20 most dangerous fires were in the last 3 of the last 100 years were in the last 3.
Yeah.
Which isn't statistically that bad.
No.
But like 7 of the 20 most property damaging fires, however, were also in the last 3 years.
Yes.
Basically, we keep...
Our recent fires have gotten way more destructive, just not way more deadly.
Yeah.
And it's just because we keep
building
closer and closer to areas that we shouldn't be building in, but we don't really have any other options because everywhere else is fucking full.
No, that's not actually quite true. It's everywhere else is way more expensive to build in because you have to actually get environmental survey in those areas, which is ridiculously expensive, and then you have to worry about the zoning. Both of these are actually waived after a fire in those areas, so it's cheap as hell to rebuild in those areas in comparison. Coupled with the fact that California artificially reduces the price of insurance in fire areas by capping it, so your insurance in the fire areas never goes up.
Yep.
So basically, we just encourage people to keep rebuilding in fire zones because we're idiots.
Yep. That being said, it looks like we actually kind of finished this one just about on time for our normal stream stop time. It's 9:35, and we just finished our job. And as you can see here, that actually did push us into the next level, so I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Yeah, so right now I have long distance, which I have 4 ranks in it, which allows me to do deliveries up to 1,100 kilometers, and I get a 20% higher reward for delivery distances longer than 850. We're about to get rank 5, which allows me to do 1,500, which is a 25% higher reward for delivery distances longer than 1,100. So these don't actually go away. So like right now, I'm still getting a 5% higher reward for delivery distances longer than 250 kilometers.
Ah.
So it just kind of stacks higher and higher. High value cargo in the meantime. I get the high value job offers unlocked, and right now, so these are not, these are just the totals when it says this. So I have high value job offers, and when I take them, I get 30% higher rewards for high value delivery. So the one that Krampus was talking about earlier is just in time delivery, which is important deliveries, and it's a 3% higher reward and 20%, so on and so forth. The reason I don't do these is because they're decently shorter time limits, and as you can see here, even at max rank, it's 18% higher reward for finishing an important delivery and 30% higher reward for finishing an urgent delivery. Urgent deliveries are fucking pain in the ass, so I never do them. So the two I usually max out first are high value and long distance, because those are actually really good boosts. So like now, if I take a high value cargo delivery that is longer than 1,100 kilometers, it's going to be like 30,000. But that being said, it's going to call it here for the night. Thank you all for joining us for another Tuesday Sound Goblin stream. We will definitely be back next Tuesday around the same time, 7 p.m. Pacific. Please try and convert that to whatever time zone you happen to be in. I don't really do those off the top of my head anymore. We might be back on Sunday doing more of our playthrough of Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, because we continue to hate ourselves. Though we might not, because we are doing sort of a Friendsgiving get-together that day, so we're going to be cooking and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you for joining us. I am, as always, Bog Rider Josh.
I am Vincent, also known as Vincent.
I'm the Krampus, and I've actually learned more tonight than I thought I would.
So, yeah, have a good night, everyone, or morning, or afternoon, or whatever it might be, and wherever you happen to be. Have a good one.
Yeah, good night.